You know how high I can kick?
No, show me. Oh, please. You got like 3 feet of air.
Like 3 feet. You know, I could have been in the Olympics.
You know when we do the Cruises episode, you can hear the people in the background?
Okay.
That's what it'll sound like.
You
Yeah,
done?
actually,
You done with your stretchies?
Yeah.
Then welcome back to the WatchTower
Welcome back.
podcast
The only podcast
with kicks. You'll
and
get a
tricks.
kick and a trick.
Wait, so how far can you kick sitting down?
That's nothing, bro. Look at that.
Oh, I'm
Your
sorry
turn.
that you act.
You don't want me to do this at this table. I'm just saying.
It'd be really funny if you kicked and just knocked over.
Then we just wait for a minute.
What is it? Like that scene when he runs over the Tupperware?
Damn it!
And then
Just
drive.
leave. Just drive away.
Which, by the way, wasn't supposed to happen.
Really? I guess we'll get into that. There's a lot of fun facts. By the way, comedy month, other than
Comedy.
no, I'd seen
Which
what's
one?
it called? Superbad, and I'd seen Airplanes. But like I saw Superbad pretty recently. This one
Airplane. Singular.
exclamation.
Wait.
That's
So
gonna give
this
it to you.
one beats it, or
No,
No.
like he hadn't seen this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
one of
okay.
the
Wait,
ones
have
I
you
thought
seen
you-
Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, I've seen Blazing Saddles.
Funny people?
No.
So 2
About
out of
half.
5?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Welcome back to the WatchTower podcast, the film review podcast of the Towercast Network,
Why are you guys out of wind?
made by cinema lovers for cinema lovers.
Why are you guys all winded?
Were we all winded? We're watching Cops.
We're not covering stuff. We almost did though.
We almost did.
So
But
I can hear you guys
we did
just
it.
all winded.
We just got a new basketball court. That's why.
We did. We got a new basketball court thanks to my homie over here.
gotta give it
But
a
we
little
got
exercise.
so we're over here. So it's hot as already, and we're over here playing basketball in the fucking office.
You good though?
Shut up, Austin. I'm training for the NBA. Gosh.
On that note, we're covering, if you haven't guessed it yet, 2004's Napoleon Dynamite for Comedy Month on the
For
WatchTower
Comedy
Film Podcast.
This was my
This was your pick, bro.
No, most certainly not. You would have thought it was, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Austin Young's
Austin.
pick. And
everybody gotta do it once.
and that being said, it was written by Jared
Francis
Hess
Ford Coppola.
and Jerusha Hess brothers.
Oh.
Directed by Jared Hess.
Who are these two
They're
guys?
twins, aren't they?
I don't think so.
No, they're just Hesses.
All right.
No, I could have sworn I thought they were twins or something.
No, what happens is John Heater, the lead of the film,
Right.
it has an identical twin.
Yeah.
Oh,
he
that's what I
does.
was thinking of.
He has an identical twin, and
But it's not identical.
So does the guy who plays
He
Pedro.
looks smarter.
and Pedro too. Yeah,
Really? They
Oh,
both
I
have
know.
twins?
they have identical twins. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, these guys. One of the other things you've known them from is Nacho Libre. They wrote and directed Nacho Libre. So,
Classic.
Did
fun
you wear
fact.
your stretchy pants?
Speaking of stretchy pants, Jack Black was originally supposed to play the Taekwondo instructor.
Oh my god.
Wow.
That would have been great,
Yeah.
right? Although I feel like this guy did it. He did it
Yeah.
yeah,
great.
'cause Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos,
great.
I don't know. He would have played
But
both
he
He would have
did. He
been like
couldn't
out of shape.
commit.
Yeah, he's a little big.
And another guy that was up for it was Brad Garrett. You guys know Brad Garrett? Everybody loves Raymond.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the brother?
The tall brother.
Oh, the
he was
big
up
tall
for it
guy.
too.
Oh, he would've
He's
been
a
good.
comic. He's a comedian.
I would have
He's
preferred
great.
him over Jack Black.
Yeah.
Nah, this guy did a good job.
that's why you think about it. Nacho Libre, that's why he made good on being in that film for
Oh,
these
okay.
guys, because he
Okay.
couldn't do this one. But yeah.
But then Nacho Libre was the last. Wasn't that like a long time ago?
I don't think they've done much after that. They may have directed TV, but as far as like kind of big films and stuff like that, nothing crazy.
Or did they get
They
blackballed
kept
by
producing.
Hollywood?
They're still producing like
To be fair, they could have retired after Napoleon Dynamite.
They made a lot of money. They did make a lot of money. The last thing they produced was in 2023, Muscles and Mayhem show on Netflix miniseries. So they're still around. They're still kicking. But as far as directing and writing, I don't think they've done a ton anymore. But when you make a cult classic
Yeah.
that made money,
Oh, I'm sorry, we boring you?
Yeah.
well, let's wrap it up.
Great episode. We'll see you guys next
Great
week.
episode.
It was a 3.
Jeez.
Was it loved at the beginning? Because I
It
didn't
was
get it.
it made money, man. I mean, on a
Did it?
$400,000 budget, it made
44 minutes.
44 million.
I was telling my family, like, before coming over here to do the podcast, I was like, have you ever heard of Napoleon Dynamite? And they're like, I've heard of it. I've never seen it. And I was like, my earliest memory, and it was like the worst pitch meeting from my cousin. He says, "Dude, I just saw this film. You're gonna love it. It's Napoleon Dynamite." And he says it's just nothing, but for like an hour and a half. And I was like, "That is the worst sounding movie I've ever heard of."
That's like the worst video ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like the Seinfeld.
And
bit,
we
but-
all figured, the three of us had seen it, Austin, Castro, myself, and we were like, Delal's gonna love this.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna love
I
it.
thought that was you with a video camera in high school.
yeah. Oh, God. Nah, man, I'll go into those details right now. But
Shall we go into ratings?
yeah,
Right
sure.
off the bat.
Austin, who would you like to start?
I want the virgin of Napoleon to go.
Napoleon's not here right now.
All right, so
Let's go with Castro.
all right.
Mine, look, when I first saw it, I really didn't get it. That dry comedy.
No, yeah.
That, now that I've watched it a couple of times, I laughed at a couple of things. I'll give it a 7.5.
For a movie or a comedy?
Yeah, because remember, for comedies, we're doing both.
All right, for comedy, just because it's that different type of humor that I'm starting to get, I'll give it an 8.
8. Okay.
I feel like it's very like It's Always Sunny type comedy, like very dry and.
Nah,
just-
but it's Sour Sunny is a little heavy.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, this is
quirky.
PG though.
It's super quirky. It's like
Yeah.
Especially
it's like in my opinion, like what like Bob's Burgers is now. What's
Exactly.
like it's like this quirky
Yeah.
kind of comedy. Yeah.
also like all the little subtleties that I think we all caught for the first time were like the tater tots were like
The
they'll just be there
cheese.
and then like they cuts
Yeah.
back and there's just too many and there's a bite out of the hot dog and it's just subtle.
But do you
little-
think that's part of the director? It was just like a low budget, like they
no,
forgot,
no, no.
Like, they
That,
forgot they were
that's
like,
no, that's an actual thing because
rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, it's because I rolled these two, but anyway. I didn't see the numbers
Yeah.
going. That's why
yeah,
I'm
it
like,
would
okay.
be a very dumb thing to not roll it. Anyway,
Yeah.
the reason I find it so intentional is because I feel like, if you're just trying to keep continuity there, you would have just said never eat the food, just leave it there. But
Right.
what they did
Nah, they're-
is that they
yeah.
did like alterations and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, especially like where it's like a bite of the hot dog, even though he didn't move at all, it's just gone. Like it's,
you don't think that they didn't have enough for the hot dogs? Like maybe it was
No, I think it
the
was
second
just-
day.
What
and
if that
it's
was like
yo,
crafty?
Well, listen.
no, because it's the
listen.
same thing with the cheese.
Now
where
that
it was
we're on
just
that
like-
topic,
yeah.
right? I'll bring this up.
Okay,
$400,000 budget.
exactly. What a
John Heater. I don't know how you pronounce it. John Heater.
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 Header.
So he's the lead, right? Respectively, he wasn't 18 in this film. He's like 31 or 20. I forget if him or Pedro was 31. I think it was Pedro. 31, and John Heater was 28 or something like that. Okay,
Really?
so he was an adult. He couldn't get paid. This movie,
He was the same age as Uncle Rico.
yeah, dude, they make fun of it because the grandma is 55.
Oh
And
shit!
he's only 20 years older than John Heater. But
hilarious.
this film, he only got paid $1,000 for this film.
$1,000?
$1,000 out of a $400,000
That's
budget.
some West Anderson stuff, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially here now. Yeah, they take pay
But
cuts.
what was that like? Because
I think it was just an indie. They didn't know. I
Was
mean,
it him
think
that-
about it. Like a
This
lot
is
of
also
it was
so weird to
yeah.
market, especially after seeing it. Like,
That's true.
I can't imagine what.
well, a funky little thing, right? Like
Tina,
the reason I bring up the food. Think about that.
Header
The
was
llama-
26, and Efren, who played Pedro, was 31.
Yeah.
wow,
So
high
the
school.
the llama belonged to the director's mom.
I love that.
Yeah, right. All the extra. The high school was filmed at the high school that the directors went to. The cow being shot thing was a memory one of the directors had on a school bus,
Oh,
seeing this shit, and they grew up in Idaho, right? And this it was the
Yeah,
city
yeah.
where it takes place. But the reason I bring up the food is because just think about the moments like this remind me two things about this movie. Number one, it was during that indie boom that I started paying attention to film at, which was the Junos and Napoleon Dynamites, that kind of circle. And same era too, right? And number two, it reminds me of like the Rodriguez thing. This film was made for $400,000. It went to Sundance, got bought by Fox Searchlight in a bidding war, by the way, with Warner Brothers or Warner Independent Films at the time, and it won the bidding war at $3 million. The film got bought for $3 million.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it made $44 million at the box office, but this is the kicker: the opening sequence, the plates,
Yeah.
right? The food. Two things. Number one, each plate is an actual plate that somebody eats in the film. Like
Oh, shit.
you re-see it later on for one of the characters. It represents kind of one of the characters. The chapstick, the hot dog, everything, right?
Okay.
And then the other thing about it is that when the director shot it, Fox Searchlight bought it and was like, dude, the hands look terrible. Let's fly in a hand model and reshoot this shit. So most of the shots in that sequence are with a hand model. That,
Wow.
as I understand it correctly, that alone, obviously, like, was a good chunk of the reshoots, right? And then the post credit scene, right?
Which I'm sure a lot of people don't even know about at this point.
Cost, there's a post credit scene. Go check it out. Was filmed after the film was bought, right before it was going to be distributed in theaters. Okay.
It was needed.
Well, the studio spent half of the budget, $200,000, just to shoot
That one.
that's one scene, the wedding scene. Why it was necessary, dear God, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But $200,000, half of the film's budget was spent in that last scene alone.
See, this is where like some of the stuff that you read in the internet, you gotta take with a salt,
Great. I mean, it's IMDb. It's verified, right? So like,
And I mean, if like also it was during that era when like DVDs would have like bonus features and all that, like when it was like special to get a DVD or like find hidden menus and all that.
that's all I was
crap.
telling you. You remember back in the day, it still kind of happens, but we would have that deleted scenes, bonus features, but extended cut, theatrical cut. As I understand it correctly, this scene didn't make the theatrical cut.
Oh.
Good.
But it made the DVD cut.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I don't know.
It was just one of those
$200,000.
weird things. Like I remember like DVDs would always like either have like hidden like
Bedazzle.
I was gonna say
Bedazzle?
Dodgeball.
Yeah, it had my bad. But
Oh no, I was gonna say Dodgeball.
it had one of those where you
Yeah,
The unrated cut.
if you
Yeah, the unrated cut, but on the menu, like if you clicked somewhere, Ben Stiller would greet you in the fat suit, and he'd be like, "Oh, look at you finding hidden menus."
Joni meets
Yeah.
DVDs were awesome. Back
It
then.
was so
they really
funny,
were.
but it was a lot
A
of that,
lot
so-
of thought was
You know
put
which was
into the
Bedazzle, right? With
Brendan Fraser.
Fraser and
Say
Elizabeth
it.
Hurley.
Say
Brendan
Fraser.
Fraser like razor. He says
Fraser.
this in an
Fraser.
interview.
There you go.
Fraser?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, for real?
Yeah.
Nah,
he
it's
says it in
Fraser.
an interview. And all of us used to say it that way.
Yeah,
and then
Fraser.
for the well, he was on a press run
Oh, I
and
did
somebody
see
was
that.
like, he was like Fraser like razor.
Fraser.
So I was,
And
okay.
he's like, "Come on, guys."
You got it, man.
Yeah, there's like 7 scenes, but if you'll find like an 8th one of I forgot what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you click it like somewhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
DVDs used to be cool. Used to be.
They're still cool.
Used to be. I'm pretty sure I have this film on DVD. I should have brought it.
Hey, did you know that Gastro's man crush was considered for the role?
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal was considered for Napoleon Dynamite.
No way.
He was considered.
It's because he played Bubble Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
Back then
quirky.
he was
role.
kind of
Right.
quirky.
He was that
Yeah.
quirky indie guy. Yeah.
I couldn't have seen it.
Anyway,
No, there's no way.
7.5 is comedy.
And the
And
Yeah.
what as a contribution to film?
7.5.
Both
No,
equally?
8 as a comedy and 7.5 is.
Fair.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool.
Squish.
Squish.
8.
I want you to introduce Carlos to give his rating.
No, yeah, this is an interesting one because.
Yeah, I'll go. You go last. You go
This is
last.
you watching you, bro.
Because you're the first. You hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
So,
So
introduce Carlos.
I don't have much to say about this movie. So Carlos, can you take?
Can you play?
Put on the
some
tape. Put on the tape. This is an interesting one, man. I feel like I'm a little biased because I hold films like this in a very special place in my heart just because this is when I discovered film. You know, it was this era and like I discovered what the variety that film could offer and like
wow.
what indie filmmakers, like the risks they were taking like this. And like I said, Juno was the first one that impacted me. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I haven't seen a film like this, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And this fell in that kind of category, you know? So it's up there for me just as a nostalgic thing, I guess. As a comedy, I will say I kind of agree with Castro. I got more laughs as a grown-up watching this. I mean, the first time I saw this was probably like, sixth grade or something, you know?
Yeah, it was just.
So I got more laughs as a grown-up. Like watching it again, I was like, oh, this shit's actually genuinely funny. So as a comedy, I'd put it somewhere in the 8 neighborhood, 8.5 even, I'd say as a comedy. It's got this quirkiness to it. As a contribution to cinema, this film is the definition of a cult classic.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I think it's somewhere, you got to give it points for that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure all the films we watch are cult classic films.
No.
Airplane, Superbad. This one.
No,
There's a
I
difference
wouldn't
between-
classify Superbad or Airplane as a cult classic.
They
Yeah.
got a little more of a following, I
Yeah.
think, right? This one was like, you have to dig for people to
Yeah.
Oh,
find
okay, I see
this.
what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
So that alone has something, right? That alone, I think, holds a little bit of value. I think just as a contribution to cinema, I'd put it at like a 7, 6.9. You know, probably at a 7, just as a like.
It's good, but it's not.
It also defined an era, right? It defined
2004.
the indie 2004 era.
True.
You know, the
Not only
good
that, when
kind
you
of
think
indie.
about it, it
Was
kicked
it-
off
was
a
it-
lot of people's careers.
Did you mention that around that time? You said
Well,
Juno.
like Juno,
Nick and Nora?
Nick and Nora's Infinite Play. This came a little later, but it
2007,
it
8.
created that, right? Like created that kind of genre, that indie kind of
Especially like those the covers and posters.
Yeah.
I forgot what the art style's called, but
I
that,
call
like,
it indie the way people know indie music now,
Yeah.
right? Like not necessarily indie cinema because that obviously came way before.
Yeah.
But like the way people think of like this quirky indie music, that ends up being really good music. I think a lot about like this is like the Father John Misty of films.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's hard to find. It's this cool
Yeah.
thing if you know it, but
And-
not everybody knows
Yeah.
who Father John Misty is. And then you realize, oh, it's not just a gag. It's actually pretty good. Like the music's actually pretty good. That's the way I think about Napoleon Dynamite. The memes and our generation growing up in high school and seeing like people make fun of it because they didn't know because we're stupid kids and we were laughing at it. We weren't laughing with it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now we can kind of laugh with it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference. So I have to give it points there. So, you know,
That's true.
more or less
Yeah.
6.97.
I was gonna say my scores are pretty much the same. I was
You're
gonna
going
be
last, though.
Yeah, he's got a.
what?
You're going last.
Let the man do himself, man.
Comedy, I give it a strong 9.
Okay.
I think you appreciate it more, as like you say, as you get older.
A strong 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strong 9.
Comedy wise.
Yeah. As a contribution to cinema, I'd give it like an 8.5.
Okay.
Just because
Wow.
like Carlos touched a lot on it, like cult classic. It was a big boom in that era.
Let me ask
And
you.
like it kicked off so many people's career. Like you see so many people in here, like, oh shit, I've seen them in like so many
Yeah.
things now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And at that time they weren't that big.
Well, John Heater, you know,
He had his little
he had a little run right
Yeah.
after this one. We were talking about Benchwarmers,
Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory.
That's in the other room.
helmet.
Yeah, that's in the other room. Blades of Glory and School for Scoundrels
Yeah.
with Billy Bob Thornton. So he had a little bit of a run, you know.
Do you remember when you watched it? I would love to. Ask
This
you
movie?
that. Yeah.
I probably watched like on MTV.
It's a
or
good
something.
question. You should ask that question every time.
I don't know. I just,
Like the first time I watched it was
Yeah.
probably like on MTV or
on
something.
MTV.
Yeah.
See, with me, it was in 8th grade, and they brought it so the whole class could watch it.
Oh, okay.
Everybody was laughing. I was
What's
like,
up
okay,
with your
this
school bringing these?
I know you
movies?
watched
Yeah.
Superbad in your school, didn't you? No, that was Sanchez.
That was Sanchez, yeah.
I went to a Catholic school. But to sneak that.
That's why
in
you
there.
had Happy Hands Club. It was a different kind of Happy Hands Club.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably watched it. My mom's. This was one of the DVDs I bought that summer.
Oh wow!
type of thing, you know, that summer
so
that
that's
I-
really when you got.
Yeah. That was like, I'm telling you, man, that summer I must have gotten like 50, 75 DVDs, you know, like just because like I got addicted to it. And this was one of them.
You think that they were thinking of doing a sequel?
They did a series,
Well,
an animated series in
Oh, yeah,
2011
yeah.
or something
Oh,
like
that's right.
2012.
Yeah.
And everybody came back for it.
Imagine like a what do you call those sequels, but with Pedro instead?
Oh, like a spin-off?
A spin-off,
A
there you
spin-off
go.
with Pedro? That'd be fun. But that was the thing in high school, right? Vote
Yeah.
for Pedro.
Go for Pedro.
Well, now the one we're waiting for. We got our PA over here.
Wow. I can't
Jogging.
even win.
Delal, you've never seen it before.
I have never seen it before
Yeah.
with like a lot of films.
By the way, I want to preface, I thought you would just genuinely enjoy it. I feel like it's your type of film. It wasn't to make you relive your high school years.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. Like, I mean, okay, let me get my ratings because I feel like that feeling is completely separate from everything else. But I'd say my rating aligns with yours. I'd say as a comedy, 8.5. And as the whole contribution to cinema, like a 7, maybe 7.1. I think it's still in the 7 range and all
Okay.
that. I thought I love all the beats because they're the kind of beats that I would see in like Anderson films where it's
Right,
that, it's
right.
that visual kind of comedy where you cut away, then you come back and there's
Where-
something slightly different.
Where do you feel like Wes started doing that? Because
He
you
started
see
he did that-
minimal stuff in Rushmore, but not really.
That's a good question. 'cause
So
I
like,
think it's
yeah,
something-
like did Wes
2004.
influence this? Or, you know what I mean?
I feel like
Or was he influenced by this type of cinema, you know?
2004, yeah.
Because Wes is a cinephile too. like
Yeah,
Wes
no.
watches everything.
I feel like he was influenced a little bit by it, but I feel like you really start to see the style come out like maybe after, and I still haven't seen it, but it's the Royal
Royal
Tenenbaums.
Tenenbaums,
Yeah, Tenenbaums. Because after this and around that era, then he did Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was like 2008, 2009.
Life Aquatic. No?
Yeah, well, he did that one, but that's not like fully realizing the style. I feel like, once he did Fantastic Mr. Fox, that's where you saw him just
Sure.
the absolute pinnacle of what he was trying to be.
I'm
and all
just
that
curious
stuff.
if
But
if those two overlap,
I
right?
mean, at some point, I feel like he has to take some of those sensibilities and all that, because...
By the way, there are some articles that say that Napoleon Dynamite couldn't happen without Wes.
Really?
Oh, that's
like
interesting.
without his influence.
I mean, yeah. See, what I do know is that there's another director. Oddly enough, Jonathan Demme, the director of Silence of the Lambs. This is one of his all-time favorite films.
Really?
That quirky, weird kind of style.
Wow.
Jonathan Demme.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I think they go hand in hand. I think this impacted filmmakers later on.
Oh, yeah.
And like I don't know if it created or it just amplified this subgenre. This subgenre, because everybody started making quirky movies after that.
Yeah. And I feel like they took a lot of these characters and wanted to have them in some way or another inserted into their films because of how iconic they are and like their mannerisms are so distinct, like, I mean, it's just, it's got this interesting flavor that, for a while it was seen in other films.
It was really like in there in that vein.
So what do you think like the theme of this thing was? Like finding yourself, friendship?
It's like a coming of age.
Yeah, a little bit of coming of age. A little
Coming
bit
of
of like
age.
Why though?
confidence, having confidence regardless.
Yeah.
Kind
Building the confidence.
But like just being confident in yourself, right? Napoleon is never insecure in this film.
So
No.
kind of.
You know what happens?
Oh no, my bad, my insecure. Yeah.
I was gonna say that we always talk about like arcs, and I'll usually turn to you and be like, "Hey, is this that part of the arc or this part of the arc?" And what I felt with this one,
arc didn't matter until it mattered.
Oh no, you did mention it though.
no, but what I noticed, I don't think I did.
No, you did. You pointed it out at the
is
end.
that the arc?
It's because when you hear his dialogue at the very beginning makes himself sound like overly confident and overly kind of like bombastic.
I'll go with you there. I'll go with you there. I'll
if
go.
you
I know
see
what
the
you're saying.
kind of middle point of the film when he talks to Pedro about like
I don't have any
getting a girl,
skills.
he's like, "Yeah, I don't got any skills, like archery skills and all that." And then later on, especially with the last scene, then he's finally like confident in Napoleon. And
I'll take it a step further. I'm
Please.
right there with you. I'll go with you there that route. In the beginning, there's something that this encompasses about like the high school experience, which is, in my opinion, not necessarily. I mean, there is a raunchier approach in Superbad, but
I was
like
gonna say that.
this is, if it capsules anything for me, is how maybe it was more middle school than high school for me, but how highly you talk of yourself to impress somebody.
Oh yeah,
And that's what Napoleon Dynamite was doing. He was just trying to impress somebody. He was
That's
trying
a
to
big
impress
thing,
anybody.
And, like
right? So
with
like
things
I think
that don't even exist.
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
the liger. Which, by the way, is based on the real animal, apparently.
No, it is a real animal.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Lion,
Do you want me
tiger,
to tell you
guinea-
how it gets made? Or?
Please.
Anyway,
But yeah.
Oh no, or like his girlfriend that's from like
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So picture that, she laughed.
The glamour shots thing.
I love her bangs. Like, yeah, me too.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you lie. You lie to impress people
Yeah,
in
and you
school
say
and
stupid
shit. You know,
shit,
and then
yeah.
what's a deeper kind of character study about that is he literally has nobody to talk to until Pedro comes along.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking likes him, and he is really much the loser in school. And like, I think that's like the interesting beginning of the arc. And you're right, you pinpointed it. The middle of the arc, we get into like, now that he has a friend that he could bounce things off of, he's like, dude, how am I gonna get a girl? Nobody wants to date me, you know. And then we get into the, hey, you just want to like, you want to play, you just want to be normal, type of thing, you know, be a normal like person with me, and I can be a normal person with you. Because what I think is interesting about that arc too is at the when he meets Deb, he tries to impress her for a bit, and then once he knows he doesn't have a shot because she's with Pedro, he stops trying to impress her, and that's where Napoleon is himself the most, right? And then we get to the end where it's just like, well, I like you, like me, let's just fucking be ourselves and hang out. So that's an interesting little arc.
Yeah.
I applaud it.
And I think for a lot of people, especially like if you're not into cinema and like analyzing it the way that we do, I feel like most people have a really hard time pinpointing what's going on in the film. And that's why like my cousin comes up and says like, oh, it's just nothing for an hour and a half. Because
that's why
the worst pit.
no, but that's what it gives off, because it's not like, oh, throughout the entire film Napoleon's trying to be president, or the entire film Napoleon's trying to be something, because from the very beginning you don't know how it's gonna end, and then like these random little turns start taking place.
He just wants to fit in.
Yeah, I know, but
he just wants to fit
like
in.
at first you're like, oh, it's the prom thing, but then like that happens, and after it happens, like, okay, now what? And then the whole vote for Pedro thing happens, but it's like a weird side plot that you're trying to keep track of.
I think what's funny about your viewing experience is like you were like, dear God, that was me in high school. But I think what this film does to me, at least, I don't know how you feel, Costa or Justin. What it does to me is it makes me reflect, like, which one of those kids was I in high school?
Exactly.
Like, was I an asshole to Napoleon?
I thought the exact
Did I talk to Napoleon? You know what I mean? Like,
was I the jock that was kind of like, yo, get out of my way, bro?
Right. Was I Pedro?
You know what
you know what I mean? Like,
you were the one who like gets that kid and just bobs him. Like not even.
Give it sense. I want to get a pop.
I'll give you some chips. Give me your bike.
But it makes you think, like, did I ever do something like that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I was, I'll say it for the podcast, and hopefully, Jose, if you ever watch this, like, this will be the time that we can bring it up. But me and my buddy Jose, who've known each other forever, I remember being like Napoleon and just wanting to be cool, and like, especially senior year, I was kind of like, man, I just want to, like, you know, be original and stuff like that. So I started like painting. So like the whole like doodling like a portrait and all that. Like I remember being like doing like stupid stuff like that, and people would be like, "What are you drawing?" I'm like, "It's a face, you know, like get out of here," like, you know. But the big one was that I remember I got a skateboard senior year, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be such a badass. I'm gonna be the first one to skate. And like whenever I was so lame, I
just picture the Lao in his whirling dervish costume, just like going down with the fucking.
Dude, and then, and like because I was like, this is the year, man. Like I'm gonna be awesome. And then he's like, okay, and we would just like hang out after school because my mom worked there, so I was always like there.
That's right.
And then he was like, what do you mean that's right? You weren't there after school.
I forgot your mom worked there. You told me your mom worked as a teacher.
Yeah. So what would happen is that
there was a football game where I bullied a guy from the other school. That was you.
I was the one who kicked after you walked away. Yeah. No, like, I would wait there after school because I was like waiting for my mom to come and get me, and then Jose would wait there late because like he was waiting for his parents who would always come late. So we just kind of like, you know, became friends like that. But like,
that's cool.
I remember being there with like my skateboard. And then him being like, "Oh, are you gonna like ride it around now?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how to do it, but like,
just to hold it."
Yeah, you know, to hold it. And he's like, "Dude, you gotta start riding it." And I remember getting on it, and then trying to kick once, and I ate shit. And then like afterwards, like somebody was laughing in the background. I'm like, they don't know anything, man. They probably don't even know how to ride. And then just Jose like laughing.
I'll tell you one thing. When I watch,
that's good stuff, dude.
When I watch these high school films,
takes you back.
It takes you back. But I had the weirdest high school experience ever.
What do you mean?
I didn't
sell crack.
I didn't sell crack. I did that in middle school.
It's so
no,
weird.
Actually, I did sell pills in high school, but that's besides the point.
Like, real quick side.
Do you remember this was the Club 101 era?
Yeah,
this was
dude, like, side note.
We're statute of limitations, right?
Yeah, dear God, I
no,
hope
like,
so.
side note, I hate that, like, I think it's so cool to, like, relate to films like these when we think of high school compared to, like, the kids now that relate to, like, Euphoria.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my God. Like,
no, but that's why I say that. Like, I had the
Jesus
weirdest high school experience because I don't relate as much to films like this or any typical high school experience because I always hung out with an older crowd. I hung out with my cousins primarily who were, 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than me. First time I got drunk was with them. First time I, started talking about girls was with them. So I didn't live the high school thing. I was telling like these guys, if anything, I'm the loser here because you guys had your prom experiences, which didn't go great, but I didn't even go to prom. Like that's how much I was. And then when I got to like junior year, man, I was over high school. Like I wanted to go to college already. I was bored. I was done. Like I was just tired of the high school thing. Yeah. I don't know why. I guess just hanging out with older crowds. I would always date older girls. I met my wife now in my senior year. Online dating. But no, I was a senior in high school when I met my wife, who's now my wife, So like I didn't have that. Like high school wasn't my world. And for most people it is when you're in high school. Like
it was Lysandra.
Lysandra. But yeah, I just feel like that's something to point out for me at least. I don't know if other people go through that. When you're in high school, whatever happens in high school is your world, man. Yeah. If you get dumped by a girl, if your friends dog you, or if you don't go to that party with your friends or whatever, it's like the end of your world, and I didn't
Yeah.
experience that. I was over high school. I
I
hated
mean,
high
I
school.
went through an experience where like I was kind of like that, where there's a lot of things that happen, and
Yeah.
you feel like it's super special. But I also went through a period of feeling like I'm done with this. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
I want to do
Yeah.
something different. That's when I went through like a Napoleon phase my senior year.
Not me.
But
I
just-
kind of want to repeat. I wanted
Yeah.
to repeat senior
High
year.
school
Really?
were the good years.
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
thing.
it's pretty fun. Even though I went to a Catholic school, it was all like the kids that got kicked out since it was right next to the bridge.
Yeah.
So it was a fun experience for me. So
And you guys have a time machine for Costuno. He wants to
Oh,
Uncle Rico's
He's
time
the one
machine.
like, of course it doesn't work.
she
I
was
could've
like,
told you.
I could have told you that.
I could throw that football.
Yeah, no, I get you. Though I get you. It's
Yeah.
Everybody has this experience. I talk to Sandra about this all the time. Sandra was very popular in high school.
Yeah.
She hung out with the cool kids, and she was very
You mean like
popular.
little
And I
Sandra?
didn't I wasn't a loser per se in high school. I just didn't hang out with anybody, man. Like I had my social circle outside of school, so like I didn't.
Nah, I wonder if
Yeah.
I was that jock now, dude. Fuck. Anybody, I'm sorry.
You were the
man.
guy who would like pick up people's steaks and chuck them at kids on bikes.
That took 4 takes, by the way.
Really?
4 takes.
Ew.
Just-
Wait.
To like,
You guys don't know this, but Gosto will show up to the office and like be like, show us his basketball tapes and be like, if coach didn't pull me out, man,
I would do that shit.
we could have won state.
we could have won state.
I
Father
would, like, I would put down
Yermo.
the rim and then put the video
I was
camera on.
dunking on them nuns. You don't even know.
That's why he brought a basketball court so he could show us.
So yeah. Shows better you can tell us.
Good
I
time.
love
It's
the
such
thing
a-
that the Taekwondo guys gets just, and then he beats the shit out of Uncle Rico.
When he shows up.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that it's such an interesting place. I think a lot of people hold like this era of films dearly because
Yeah.
it takes you back to like a high school age where it's such an influential time in
Yeah.
everybody's life, even if it's for you that you remember for different reasons.
Yeah.
Or, like any of us, like we all have that period that was unique in its own way, and I guess
Yeah.
this kind of gives us a safe place to reflect on that
Dude.
and
Yeah.
laugh at it, because I mean, like when you look at like the kids from like Superbad who talk about like, oh, we go to clubs, and it like cuts to them like getting drunk at like some adult party, like
At their parents' house.
yeah, it's like all those dumb things that would happen that you can laugh at now. You could be like,
Yeah.
we went through that phase of trying to be cool and trying to do stupid things, but
I'm looking up to see what films felt like that. I remember I only watched it recently, but I swear if I would have discovered High Fidelity back in the day,
oh man,
But that's 90s. That's
but late 90s, isn't
Late
it?
90s?
Yeah, it's late
I
90s.
don't even think I watched it.
John Cusack
Jack Cusack.
and Jack Black and shit. Yeah. No. That's
That's
Say
like-
Anything. That's
Oh,
Say Anything.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
80s, 88 or something like
Calm
that.
down.
No. High Fidelity is when he works at a record store, breaks the fourth wall.
Oh.
nah, he's thinking of
But
16 Candles.
It feel, well, 16 Candles, like John Hughes did. I think John Hughes did influence those kind of films a little bit.
yeah, for sure.
Breakfast Club. This feels a little Breakfast Clubby with the kind of the
Oh,
celebrating
yeah.
and stuff like that. So like, it's an interesting kind of era of cinema that, more than anything, captures nostalgia very
Yeah.
well, very well.
There's no other films that around 2004, I guess.
I know there is
Yeah,
because
there
I
is for
saw them
sure.
all that fucking summer. But it did feel, a lot of people, you're right, are saying like a lot of Wes Anderson films. Hot Rod. You remember Hot Rod?
Oh, there we go.
You know, it falls in that kind of.
That's like after high school, like just hanging out with the homies.
I'm looking at a list.
Have you seen
here.
Hot Rod?
I have seen Hot Rod.
Accepted kind of falls in that category a little bit.
The create the.
But these were, I think that you see, that's the line. Something like Accepted and Hot Rod are straight up comedy, straight up like where I wouldn't define as cinema. Napoleon gets a little bit more of a pass.
Because it's
Napoleon
not-
had more intention, had
it's
more
not
style.
trying to
yeah.
be
more more.
Yeah, it's not trying to just get cheap laughs or quick laughs.
Right, right.
Compared to like Airplane, where
It's
everything's a
trying.
joke.
Very
This
different.
one's very much like a realistic story, but you laugh at the situations,
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's like like
There's a film that I saw, still got a lot more serious tone, but I saw in that same era where it was, it's Kind of a Funny Story.
yeah.
Zach Galifianakis. It's a kind of minor role, but it's about a kid who wants to commit suicide. It's about to jump off a bridge.
Yeah. It takes
And
and
then
then
they-
takes place in like hospital. No?
Yeah,
The
they
little
take him to like the psych
I've
ward,
seen that one.
and he's admitted and stuff like that, and connects with like Emma Roberts, I think is one of the
Emma
characters, and Zoe Kravitz, this kid who's now fucking famous for being an actress. Zoe Kravitz is like, that was her first movie.
Oh wow.
And it's the same vein. It's this quirky comedy with these quirky jokes and kind of quirky people. Has a lot more heart. It's a lot more serious. It's about suicide Galifianakis is probably the first serious role I ever saw him in, but it has that same feel, that same kind of indie cinematic feel, this kind of indie cinematic feel.
And kind of touching upon how it holds a place in cinema. Well, you've seen the site Studio Binder, right? And I don't know if you've seen any of their videos on YouTube where they break down scenes. They do a breakdown of the scene in Napoleon Dynamite where he's walking through the chicken area.
Okay.
And they were saying that, it's very subtle and it's very simple. The composition, but it kind of shows you how they're all, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a Lost in the Sauce kind of thing. Like everybody's fighting for attention. Everybody's fighting to be heard and all that. Like if you look at all the chickens, they're all clucking and kind of balking about, and they're all trying to like stand out because, they're trapped in like whatever the confines are, which in this case is like high school. And Napoleon's part of that. And they were like, it's a very simple way to compose a shot, but it's very meaningful and intentional.
It can be analyzed. And maybe that's one of the many definitions of cinema is, can this be analyzed to the nth degree? Because the another film I would throw up with this one, I don't know if you guys saw it. It was a Richard Linklater picture, which explains why it's actually good. But Bernie.
Oh yeah,
it falls directly into this line. Like it's quirky, dry comedy, super quirky. McConaughey's character is doing a bunch of shit, and Jack Black's character is being funny by playing it straight.
Exactly,
playing it straight. And it's about a fucking mortician guy who like is gonna smuggle money through dead bodies and shit. But
because she's a bitch.
Shot documentary style, and I think the correlation between these two films. Maybe even Juno.
I'll put Juno a little bit more there.
Well, I was going to say the correlation between these three, let's say these three, and that kind of feel of cinema, they're films that aren't supposed to work. On paper, they're not supposed to work.
Dynamite for sure not.
It's not supposed to work, but it works. And it's kind of it's kind of ineffable a little bit. You can kind of explain it a little bit, but it's not meant to work.
Where, the actors and performances.
But isn't that what evolves cinema? Isn't that what pushes cinema forward? Is like breaking ground on something that someone hasn't done before to this degree.
Oh yeah,
and making it work. Ooh. And inadvertently creating a genre, creating a subgenre like it did. So this film just was not supposed to work. Bernie on paper is not supposed to work. Juno. Besides the main factor, the teen pregnancy factor, which was a super popular topic in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like even that's when like Teen Mom on MTV was coming out with MTV. So
Aquaman.
like it was this popular topic. Yeah. So they're not supposed to work. These quirky things are supposed to work. What struck me the most about Juno was something similar that this one had is the soundtrack. These kind of out of context indie music. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
I was about to say
like,
also, yeah.
They're not supposed to work. How is studio greenlit something like this? In this case, it didn't. It got bought out afterwards, but is beyond me, man. Like once I think Napoleon Dynamite, Juno, these films defined a place where the Fox Searchlights, the Warner Independents, the Columbia Classics, like the Sony Classics now, like these indie branches of studio films. And I feel like for those people to like greenlight bigger studio pictures that are still this indie quality, that's why they did it, by the way, right? Like it's our indie branch. It's our indie branch. It's like when a major record label has their indie label. When Columbia Records has Reprise Records, you know what I mean? And the reason I think that's important is because if all of this didn't exist the way it did, if Miramax, quite frankly, didn't exist, if Clerks didn't happen and informed this quirky kind of way of storytelling, we wouldn't have A24.
No, yeah.
Damn.
And which is so important now. It's the only studio working right now during the SAG strike because they agreed to everything SAG wanted.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, A24 is still making pictures because of it. Because they're like, all right, SAG, we'll do it. We don't have a lot of money to burn anyway.
That's
so
beautiful.
So like they adhered to all the SAG rules, all the WGA rules too. So my point is these indie companies and these indie films are so important to cinema. They genuinely want more important than people understand, because when people go to cinemas, A24 has that new horror film out right now that's breaking box office records and shit.
Talk to Me?
The Talk to Me film.
Yeah.
It's doing really well, and critically it's doing really well.
And the pitch is
Yeah,
horrible.
it's horrible. The trailer was terrible.
Yeah,
But we actually know somebody at the marketing department at A24. We're going to talk to them. We're going to have a conversation. But my point is, these films are still driving cinema forward. And for some reason, a lot of them are just landing on the Netflixes in the back of the catalogs, right? And they're certainly not being played in cinemas anymore.
exactly.
You know, so like people like A24 are birthed from, I think, this era a little bit. And if they didn't exist, we wouldn't have these amazing, what we define as like amazing cinema in modern day.
Yeah.
These Ari Asters. Like, who would pay attention to an Ari Aster if Napoleon Dynamite didn't exist? I'm legitimately analyzing that right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's super
Do you
fascinating.
feel
to me.
like just kind of bring it back into comedy month?
Yeah.
Do you feel that comedy, like this platform mixed in with comedy, made it something that was more palatable? That then it was easier to market to like masses and all that kind of stuff.
What
What do you mean?
was the first year of The Office?
Like
I think it was like 04 or somewhere.
because
around there.
exactly because
Oh.
if this did something like this didn't exist, or if these things weren't
05.
05.
consistently coming out on top of each other, that comedy wouldn't mesh well, wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And on top of that, let's take it back even to stand-up comedy. These quirky stand-up comics wouldn't get any appeal if it wasn't for stuff like this.
Ooh, true, man.
You know, I don't think
'Cause-
a John Mulaney would survive the comedy world if it wasn't for pop culture like this influencing the
I just
the
feel
medium
like
a
the
little bit.
comedy elements of it are what's giving it its longevity, and then also giving it something where it's a more palatable film to like
Yeah.
mass audiences.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a serious version of this would be like a What's Eating Gilbert Grape. It's
Absolutely.
it's a similar kind of
Absolutely.
like setting and all that.
Right on the head.
But I feel like with that one,
pretty
that's
good.
not going to be palatable for everybody, and that's not going to be
Right.
something that everybody's going
But-
to want to mimic that style. But when
Let's
it's
take it-
comedy,
yeah.
when it's something that it's like you can repeat the lines, vote for Pedro. It has that kind of early meme culture
Yeah.
that permeates. Then,
Well, let's
stuff
take it
like
to a
this.
modern turn. If Napoleon Dynamite didn't exist, perhaps we wouldn't have a Ladybird or a Booksmart, even. It's right in that vein, and these films are still getting made. And my brother once told me, we're having a conversation. You guys have these conversations with your parents, right? Where your parents
No.
are like, "The fuck are you doing?" And my mom was always just like, "Oh yeah, my son's making movies, and that's her right. It's her what is it called? Her bragging rights, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he makes movies, and he's gonna be like making like this big movie in the theaters." And my brother stepped in, and he's like, "That's not the kind of movie he wants to make, mom. Like he's not gonna make that." And what he meant was, I'll fight for the little guy. Like this is
Exactly,
the type
yeah.
of film I'm fighting for, to a certain extent.
No,
And
yeah.
and
You're
A lot
not trying
of
to be
us-
the next Star Wars.
no, not in the slightest. But that's why when I first started analyzing Scorsese, I always said
There it is.
Scorsese.
There it is.
There's a mention. In case you need to write it down, tally it up.
Timestamp.
If Scorsese, in my opinion, the way I've always analyzed him, especially in the beginning, was he was the studio guy making indie pictures. He was getting studio budgets to make indie pictures with these studio budgets.
True.
So like if I want to be anything, it's that, right? Like let's have the resources to tell a good story, but you have to get to be a good storyteller first before they can give you that,
That's
right?
hard,
So I think that's why the chefs exist, man. I think like what keeps these films alive in today's era where everything's oversaturated is like these comedies, these quirky kind of indies that people love. Like at the end of the day, they love them and they'll continue to be made. A
What
comedy
was
in
one
the
of the
same.
most recent ones that you kind of would feel kind of like came from that? Still sticking with comedy though. I'm
That's
trying to think
interesting.
like a good comedy in the last couple of years.
Like
Yeah.
kind of comedy with heart type of thing. Kind of like that. A little bit of like that. Always Be My Maybe movie.
That's the one with the Asian one, right?
Asian cast.
Yeah,
Keanu
yeah.
Reeves
Yeah,
makes
kinda
an
has that
appearance.
feel,
Kind of
yeah.
has that feel, right? And that was really popular on Netflix. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
'cause
That's
I
a
feel
really
like-
good
yeah, I
question.
feel like I
They
haven't-
they are being made.
There was a couple
Sandra,
like,
and I,
really-
Sandra and I just saw one actually. It's based on a novel, very popular novel, but it has the same tonality, totally. Dear God, It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah.
It's with the love of my life, Rachel McAdams. It plays
Oh,
the
like-
mom.
Also, a year or
Call
two
me
back,
Mr. McAdams.
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, they did that one like Yes God Yes, and then they did one that was
Uh-huh.
pretty topical,
Uh-huh.
Unpregnant. I don't know if you
I
ever
haven't
saw
seen-
it
I
on
haven't
like
seen
Pregnant.
those.
Hulu.
Well, you know what was we thought were going to be a hit for a long time because of Bo Burnham, another comic that wouldn't survive if something like this probably wouldn't have happened. He did his directorial debut, 8th grade, which in retrospect wasn't great. It wasn't a great directorial debut. It did decent. It was okay, but it had this quirky indie comedy feel.
Is it that guy that did the comedy in his in the back house?
Inside.
Yeah, that one was
phenomenal.
So
I still haven't seen the extended cut of that. Have you seen it?
but have you seen
No.
the like?
I don't know, there
There's
was an extended.
on Netflix. There's one that's inside, and then it's inside outtakes.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
I
it.
gotta watch. That.
I gotta watch it, but it's like
But
I got
Bo
some-
Burnham, man, like this YouTube comic that's
Yeah.
sprung up out of nowhere and was quirky and was funny and was a musically inclined comic, but still super quirky and fun.
Absolutely.
also coming out of that era when people would just like didn't take things like YouTube and all that so seriously.
That's
and
big,
that-
huge.
That's such a
Huge.
weird era that we're never gonna be able to like recapture.
That's where
because,
Funny or Die came out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Funny
wow.
or Die, Will Ferrell's company with Adam McKay.
He actually sold it, but yeah.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. But yeah, I mean,
Where it was just like people like would
Yeah.
do the weirdest stuff on there, and you'd show those videos to your friends, and it was just like,
Exactly. Now it's like everybody's seen it, right?
yeah, I know.
yeah. But I
Or
don't
the
know. I
first
guess in
time.
terms of comedy, I think these comedies, you have to dig for a little more, but I do think they still exist.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like the recent ones. Like I gotta dig some more because I haven't seen one that reminds me of like Napoleon Dynamite, Super.
But I do feel like I've seen its
That's
influence.
quotable, like,
you
Yeah,
know,
it's influence.
I've seen its influence
Oh,
where
no,
people
for
are
sure.
trying to be like this. You know, there's
think
another
it's-
one that came out. It's okay. It's called Metal Lords. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah, I saw the
yeah,
trailer.
where
Mhm.
it's basically like these misfit kids, but
Yeah.
their whole thing is that they want to be like metal gods and all that kind of
What?
stuff. Yeah, like these two kids in high school.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
kind of
like
misfit.
metal or
yeah,
metal
no,
metal?
like
Oh, okay.
metal. Like they want to like they want to be metal. They
Yeah.
want to like dress all in black and all that. And then when people are like, "Dude, that sucks," and they'll play like pop songs on the radio, they're like, "No, you suck." But like they're losers.
So
But
like Tenacious D
it's
kinda.
it's exactly. It's exactly this kind of style,
Yeah.
but it brings it into that kind of context. And I've seen stuff like even like The Babysitter. If you remember watching that one, it was a
horror
comedy.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like there's
Yeah, no,
this
you're right. You're right.
has definitely permeated till now, and
Yeah.
I think it'll continue to permeate because of
And
the
you're right.
style.
But the babysitter example is a good example of it permeating other genres.
yeah,
Right, going into other genres,
like
horror
taking
comedies.
the Napoleon, but putting it into like
Yeah.
horror comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing more along the lines of like romance, doing more along the lines of like, you know, I don't know, even like I feel like now we're seeing like a sci-fi with Wes Anderson, but it still has some of the like quirky.
No, of course.
But you know, it's
That'd be dope.
I don't feel like this film is gonna lose its longevity and how it affects
No,
other films.
I don't
being
think so
made.
either. I don't think so.
I
either.
think
Unique.
for that sake, I'll probably go up on my like score and cinema, just because I feel like the more we think about it, the more I really do
it
feel
did
like
birth this like subgenre. It really did. It really, really, really did. I agree.
What would your rating go up to?
I'd probably put it at like an 8 now instead of a 7. Probably an 8 as far as like cinema.
Cinema-wise?
And then I'd probably keep it at like an 8.5 as far as comedy. You know, I feel like I wouldn't put it any higher. I'd just say 8 only because these were the fundamental films to like inspire a genre. I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
Go.
You gotta tell us like a scene or something that really reminded you of high school.
Dude, there's so many. There's so every other scene. I remember.
He kept saying, "I can't watch this. I can't watch
Come on,
this."
Yeah,
I think
no,
that was the funniest part. It wasn't even us laughing at him. He
Right,
would laugh at it himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I remember stupid things. Like I remember like wanting to ask out a girl for prom, and
wow.
the day I was gonna do it, like, you know, you do one of those like they did, like a little paper or something like that.
Yeah.
And then this guy pulls out a poster, and I remember looking at that, I'm like, fuck. And then I just like threw it away and then sprinted out of the
It's
like.
because you should have built her a cake.
Yeah, exactly.
built her
No. And then like I remember being at prom, and like I mean I wasn't the worst dancer there, but I would like do the most awkward shit, and because I would like love a song, and I remember that we're dancing and everything was
Dude.
fine. What?
The most awkward shit.
Go on. I'll
No,
say it after
no.
your
I
story.
was just gonna say I don't think she's gonna hear the podcast, but
Yes.
no, I remember us like dancing, and then you know we got tired and we went back to our table, and then Jump Around by House of Pain was gonna
okay,
play,
okay.
and I'm like, this is my shit. I'm about to go down like on this whole dance floor. So, and then I remember she was like, "Where are you going?" Like, I'm tired. I'm like, this is Jump Around by House of Pain. What are you tired about? And then I remember going out, and then when it came back, it was like, oh, she left with somebody else, and I'm like, well, here we go. And then I just like went with my mom, and then I was just there, and she's like, "Where's your date?" And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Damn.
And then you just kind of go back, but it's all these like weird, quirky situations. And then as far as like the dance scene, I mean, that was basically me, but I did Turkish folk dance, so I had my whole little like. I remember like the stage being
somebody
empty.
finds that out there. Somebody
Yeah,
record it.
Please.
I remember-
I will pay you money.
I know.
Yes.
I remember the stage being empty, and then just me going out there and have my like little hat on, and then just turns and then
You went at
and facing the stage. And then what was so funny is that if
He
anybody
points at the girl that left on her
no, Yumi afterwards. No. What was so funny is that when I got into like folk dance, I got into it at like 6th grade, right? And
Because everybody gets it.
no, yeah, no, like. Dude,
Whirling dervishes all around.
no, it's like a small school feel because I remember like only like seniors were in it and
Oh my
like
God.
juniors, but I think they were doing it because like a joke. They were like, "Dude, like we're about to graduate, let's fucking do this." And then my like
You took it serious.
my 6th grade ass is like, I'm not gonna let anybody show me up. So I remember like on the sign up sheet, it's all these seniors and it's just like me. And then you're standing there.
Nah, but I bet
Like-
you he was the cool kid with the seniors.
Yeah.
That'd be like the quirky,
No,
like,
honestly,
yo, he's the funny kid.
yeah,
Give him
dude,
credit,
like,
bro.
Yeah.
like for a little while, it was like all the middle schoolers going.
Because, come on, I don't peg the Law's like, the Law's good at what he does, and when he puts his mind to it, he's good at
Exactly,
something,
like-
but he's not a tryhard either, like he was out
No,
of,
but it's one of those where, like, again, going back to like playing it straight. I think that's what just made me funny a lot of times is that I believed in this, and
That's funny.
I
That's
did it like again,
That's
like
gold.
again the whole like correcting my hat and then just going out in my little outfit, like all that. And then what was funny is that the way we would present
Me and
ourselves.
old Jimmy are gonna have
No.
a conversation about
The way
videotapes
we
coming
would-
up.
The way we would present ourselves going on the stage is that we had to do the, oh god, I needed to be accurate. I need the joke to be
Yes,
accurate.
yes.
So what happened is that this is factually correct. So what you did is you had to like get your hands out and you do click click and you do these little like click click and then kicks and all that. But it would be like one person would go click click and then come out and then the next person would follow behind. All these people are seniors. So then imagine just and then my short ass. Like just coming out like a little like a mini me, like a little mini me coming out. So like I remember
Funny.
just these like embarrassing situations to anybody else, but I just like believed in it wholeheartedly.
That's beautiful, dude.
Getting a skateboard and thinking I was gonna be super cool in high school now. Like I just oh god,
Who
it
would've
just
thought, man?
yeah.
Cinema's
man.
powerful, man. It's gonna take you back to a place whether when you saw it or experienced a
All of it.
I
version of
appreciate
it.
that memory, dude.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
I was reading that in terms of our conversation about the other films that would probably be lumped in kind of with this category.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say that Donnie Darko
What?
has that like
Oh, okay, yeah.
Indie. It's an indie horror, much like I said, kind of eating
kind of
Gilbert
quirky
Grape.
Grape.
indie
Like-
horror. Yeah, well, certainly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't think about this one.
What?
One of your favorite films of all time, Lars and the Real Girl.
Oh,
Which we've covered on this podcast.
Yeah.
Right, we covered it. On this
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, we did early on. Oh man, I'd love
Lars and the Real
I
Girl.
really love that one.
Yeah,
dude.
but it had that same quirky kind of indie feel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, small. I love how a lot of these are just these weird kind of obscure towns,
Yeah.
like but I
Yeah,
think
it's-
it takes
but that brings-
it back for a lot of people.
It gives
you
it
know?
its charm.
Yeah,
right?
Speaking
It
of
gives it its
obscure
charm.
towns, they had a Napoleon Dynamite like fest
They did.
from like 04 to 08 in Preston, Idaho.
Really?
Where the movie was made.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where the competitions would legit be football throwing, tater tot eating contests, just shit like that, a look-alike contest.
Really?
You know?
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
A llama race and shit.
A llama race. Yeah. What
I
can we
think the
say?
directors had really good attachment to like the cast and crew because I think the guy who played Napoleon, that actor,
John Hader.
John Hager, he was invited on the set a couple of times for Nacho Libre, and I
that's
originally
cool.
thought he directed it because
Oh, wow.
I would watch the like behind the scenes, and you would see him like interacting with
Yeah.
everybody there. But yeah,
Probably just had a really good relationship with
yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, it became this classic. People want to go see it. It made box office. I would have expected Napoleon Dynamite to be this film that failed at the box office but became a cult classic. It didn't, man. It was popular for its era. The MTV age really pushed it forward. MTV was in that quirky era too, where it was
Oh,
releasing
yeah.
different weird kind of shit,
It was just trying to be different.
Yeah. Go figure, man. It worked.
Did
It
your
worked.
guys' ratings change at all?
Oh, mine definitely did.
Where you at?
bro?
I think because it did that, it helped us. Like we had a great discussion about cinema.
True.
Yeah.
But where are you gonna put it now?
What did it contribution to cinema?
You put 8.5 at cinema, and
I
then
put it at a
9.
soft 9.
Soft 9. Okay.
Wow.
Just because like it's not.
It really did have that impact.
Yeah, it had that impact on all of us, and I wouldn't say it's the most like technically perfect film out there, but it creates that
Yeah.
conversation.
No,
There's a lot of layers to it that
Yeah.
honestly I never even thought about until
Also,
hearing you
just
guys
for the
talking about.
fact that like being in high school, I would hear the quotes from this movie all the
Oh
time.
yeah, it was
like-
everywhere. Vote for Pedro
Yeah.
shirts were everywhere, and
Did somebody call you Napoleon the Law? Just tell
No,
us.
but my friend Librado would usually come to the lunch table and be like, "Eat your food,
Quit
you
it."
sack of lard." Like,
you see what you do? Not only are you disturbing our listeners with that sound, but then you create a mess.
That's a good soundbite too, bro.
It's a great
"Eat
soundbite.
your
Yeah.
food, Tina."
They call you Tina.
So did it go up?
Yeah, and then he would bring a spoon and
Tina,
like,
come
whack
get your ham.
oatmeal at
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it did. It did. I think as a contribution to cinema, I'd put it at like a 7.1.
He went up one.
Yeah, dude, that's
No, I was at like a 6.9, right? 6.9.
yeah, you're at 6.9, 7.1.
It crosses into the 7,
Okay,
7.1.
that's a C.
I'd give it a 7.1.
That's fair.
As a comedy, I think it sticks about the same. You know,
Yeah,
Maybe
comedy, I wouldn't go any
8.5 or
higher.
so. You know, yeah. It's great. It's great,
Yeah.
and you're right. It does create this kind of discussion for us, and at the same time, it was a contribution to cinema. It did inform the landscape of cinema at the time.
Yeah, I'd escape it.
I'll go for cinema. I went from a 7.5. I'll put it up to like
7.6. Going all the way up.
7.8.
About as I was
7.8. But then comedy wise,
Stay the same.
I was a flat 8. I'll put it at 8.2.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is memorable, dude. It's
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Now,
I love all the physical comedy in it, like just
Yeah.
those kicks at the end, or like
The bicycle one.
Yeah,
Can I try it?
dude. Oh god.
That's what reminded you of the
Got 3
skateboard.
foot of air.
Yeah.
now, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because when the film opens up, you were like, "Oh, this opens up like a Coen Brothers film."
Oh yeah. I do
Did this
remember.
feel more Coen Brothers or more Wes?
No, to me, I felt it was more of a Cohen, like
Yeah.
you know,
Really?
because
I'd
I
say
I think it
feel
was a West.
Wes is everybody.
Visuals, yeah. You're right.
Everybody sits very proper and all that, and I mean when they would do like the cutaway shots, like when they're talking to each other, everybody would stay in their same static position. They weren't dynamic, and they were told like you know
I
just
also
to kind
don't
of keep
think
it like that.
That part was immensely intentional. I think they just worked with a lot of non-actors.
No,
For
but
its budget, you know, they got a high school and said, "Hey," they shot it with 22 days, which is what we shot our first feature with,
Yeah.
22 days, and said, "Hey, just come out for a summer. We're going to shoot this movie." I read something that this is credited as one of the longest credits in cinematic history
183 extras were
because
actually
they
listed.
listed all of the high school extras, which is not something typically you do.
wow.
But I think it was just a non-actors thing that they just like, what do I do with my hands? You know,
Yeah.
like, which added to the feel.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think it's more Coen Brothers than it is Wes
Yeah.
in terms of
Because Coen Brothers
dry
have
comedy. In terms
dry, and then also I feel like Coen Brothers create a very distinct feel for each of their characters.
Yeah, they set up the
And,
world
like,
right away,
with,
for sure.
Like this, after watching this, I can't imagine anybody playing Napoleon. I can't imagine anybody else
Right.
playing Pedro. You
Like,
know,
no Jake
Rico.
Gyllenhaal,
Like
no.
everybody
of
really
people
locks
compare this
themselves
to
in.
like
yeah.
The Big Lebowski a lot.
Yeah.
They really do. People compare this film to The Big Lebowski.
Just to feel
I
good,
would
yeah.
correlate it a little closer, not the thriller aspect, obviously, to like Fargo. You know,
Oh yeah.
the characters in Fargo are super quirky,
Yeah.
you know?
Dry.
but we get laughs out of them too. You know, it's interesting perspective. Yours? Everybody went around already, right?
Yeah.
Any
I
favorite
have a-
quotes?
You have a question?
Favorite quotes? Which one was the one where? Yeah, I spent 3 hours shading your upper lip.
I
not a
spent like
comment at
3
all.
hours shading your upper lip.
Carlos?
I think when he says like Pedro's like, who was that? It's like my woman who I'm taking to prom.
Oh god.
Immediately.
Hello.
Favorite quote?
I mean, he wrote them all.
Oh man, trying to think. Gosh. No, I think gosh is a good one, but eat your food, Tina. To me, like that. You know what? Even
He's gonna go home and be like, eat your food, Jimmy.
No, even before I knew about the film, because again, my friend Librado would always be eat your food, Tina, and like he showed me that clip. I remember one time a stray cat came to my house, and like it was kind of feral, so nobody wanted to get too close to it, so we just chucked food at it.
Okay.
And like I remember we called it Tina because it was like, "Eat your food, Tina," and then we just like chucked wet cat food at this
Not for
cat.
nothing, man. But a couple things about the food in this film. Number one, how the fuck did this family afford steaks every meal?
They look like Dollar Tree steaks, dude.
I sure,
Yeah,
but
that's how I do it, bro. I stack my
Oh,
fridge and fucking steaks.
You know which joke I really liked?
no, but I guess they kill the
That's
cow
survival
themselves.
mode,
Either, or
dude.
The
something.
joke I liked like way too much than I should have was the one where like, "This is the 24 pack, get the 12 pack." Just
You can't
Dude,
afford the
the
fun
fun
pack.
no, we're like, with the colors. He's like, "You're just gonna have to blend them," and then he just chucks it back.
Oh, Uncle Rico is great.
Or he's like,
man.
"Hey, could I have one of your buttons?"
Dude, that's the best one. That's the
He runs- hey man, by all intents and purposes, Napoleon stands up to the bully.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah, he
You know?
really does. Again, that's when he comes into himself. That's his arc.
Right. There
My-
was an arc.
Mine is the one that me and you say all the time. Your mom goes to college.
Your mom go-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, what was
Good.
the one that you said? It's basically me. Whenever you have a problem on set, like,
It's like the problem.
That's the problem.
What's the problem? The problem is I don't really have a solution for that right now.
Yeah, the brother.
It's good, man.
Peace
Good
out.
stuff. I have one
Peace
question
out.
that's kind of like not part of this, I guess. It's kind of part of like because you've never seen Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
What's one film that you're embarrassed you haven't seen?
Oh, that's good.
Every film.
I have because I was thinking of one and I know
Who
you guys are gonna
said
hate me.
this? Somebody uses that question in a podcast.
I think it was Brad
Justin-
Pitt, because one of them haven't watched and Leo was like, we gotta go watch that right now.
No, I know, but there's a podcast with Justin Long called "Life Is
Oh.
Short" with Justin Long.
Life can be a dream.
Yeah,
Life
and
can
at
be
the
a
end, one
dream.
of his like
Do,
questions, like he does a
do,
speed
do,
round at the
do.
end with every guest. And
I
one of the
love that.
One of the questions is, "What's a film you're ashamed that you haven't seen yet?"
Oh, dude, I gotta watch that. It's because I was thinking about that and I have one that you guys were gonna be like,
Come on,
oh,
Carlos,
shit.
sing it.
Which one?
Kill Bill.
Life can be a dream.
Really?
You never seen Kill Bill? Oh,
See?
dude, it's
I
fantastic.
haven't.
Mine's
No, but
the
I-
Godfather.
Dude, I haven't seen anything.
No, I know which one. Yeah, but like, which one do you think we're gonna be like judge you for?
Everything.
Anything that's comedy, dude.
No, I.
The Laos-
Yeah,
like-
that's a good point. We always bash on him because he hasn't seen a bunch of the.
But yet
comedy.
he's the
alright,
funniest
that's
guy
not
here.
bucket either.
No, let me try to think. Ah, man.
We were talking about that today. Which one was it? Hot Rod? No, it wasn't Hot Rod.
No, but those are like hard to find. Like something like Kill Bill.
Oh, like Step Brothers. Like you guys give me
Oh,
like
yeah.
stuff for not
Step
seeing
Brothers,
Step
that's
Brothers.
right.
Yeah.
bro.
He's
Yeah.
never seen Step Brothers.
Come on.
By the
bro.
way, I'm glad I picked this over Step Brothers. I feel like we had a better conversation than we would have.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
We may
yeah, for
have.
sure.
We would have just
Yeah.
been laughing our asses off
Yeah.
talking about. Step Brothers is much more quotable. I'll say that.
Why are you sweating?
Just watching
Cops.
cops.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just- welcome back.
Welcome back.
Do you have
So
a
you
film?
said what?
Kill
You said The
Bill.
Godfather. You said Kill Bill. Yeah, Kill
That's
Bill's a
interesting.
great
You-
one.
What's up with you?
You said
Step Brothers.
Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Shit, man. I don't know. Something that I'm
I
ashamed
also
I haven't
haven't seen
seen.
Kill Bill.
Mm-hmm, that we would be like, yo, Carlos
Austin
hasn't
hasn't seen Kill Bill either.
I
I've
feel
seen
like,
like clips.
You
but-
sons of bitches. None of you have seen it.
I feel like you haven't seen
Yeah,
like
no, I'm
7.
embarrassed that I haven't.
I
It's
have seen
Quentin
seven.
Tarantino.
I've
Yeah.
seen seven. I have seen seven. But
feel like-
something in that vein. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right,
thriller-esque, you know.
yeah, definitely a thriller, a popular thriller. People.
Donnie Darko.
Oh, there you go. There Will Be Blood.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I've never seen it, and it's.
Oh.
I started it, and I couldn't get through it, man. I
What?
got like 10 minutes in, and I just couldn't get. I don't know. Just the pacing did something.
No
to
Country
me.
for Old Men.
I haven't seen No Country. I have not seen No Country for Old Men.
What?
Yeah, that'll be my
I'll
shame
give
one.
you- it's a good one, but I don't know, like, to the pedestal that people put it.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
good.
think isn't No Country the like one of the few films that doesn't have score like at all?
It's also one of the ones
Oh,
that like they won an
interesting.
Oscar for, I thought.
I'm about to say it's like when
Interesting.
people think Coen Brothers, they either think Lebowski or No Country. Like it's.
I think Oh Brother Art though.
Yeah, me too.
But
I'm,
that's
I'm in that
also
vein.
the
I
more-
think. I think
Past
House
Vin
Caesar.
vein, yeah.
that's what.
A not serious man.
I used to think only a serious man, but now I think ballad.
Yeah, Ballad of Buster Scruggs for sure.
I haven't seen
I
it.
screened a film last night with Oscar Isaac. Speaking of the Coen Brothers and like Inside Llewyn Davis, obviously, but
Oh, we're gonna cover that
Motherfucker
eventually.
can do no wrong, dude.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude, I saw him in the card counter.
He's pretty good.
Jeez, dude.
I'll scratch
Him and
it.
Adam Driver, man.
He's fucking they're fucking
I've been
good.
wanting to watch
they're good hunks of
rewatch
men.
At Eternity's Gate.
He's in that. He's got a nice little part. In that.
Yeah.
Then goes
Well, anyways,
friend.
welcome back.
Welcome back. It's a great film. Go watch Napoleon Dynamite. It's definitely worth the watch. It's worth the squeeze. The juice is worth the squeeze. It's a 96-minute film. You're not gonna miss out on a ton of time, and it's good laughs all the way.
Absolutely.
If you're Mexican, it's got a couple of little jokes in there for us.
Down
that are
in-
pretty
we don't know
great
what you do down
that
in
we have-
Juarez.
Yeah, we don't know what you do down in Juarez.
I don't understand. I beat pinatas in Mexico all the time.
It's pretty good, man. It's got a lot of great moments. It has an arc. It can be analyzed, and it did something for cinema that I can't quite
What
pinpoint.
was the
Oh,
point
wait,
of
I don't think anybody's been able
I
to
can't
pinpoint
quite
it.
pinpoint. This thing is not supposed to work.
Exactly,
It's just
okay,
not. Like,
Dude, like, did you see that video I sent you?
yeah.
Like how I talked about, it's technically the hero's dream, but
Right.
it's kind of not, and it's just this weird thing. And
He gets the girl at the end.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, man. Go watch it, analyze it, tell us what you think about it, tell us why it works or why it doesn't. It's an interesting
And
picture.
if you still haven't seen it, because I bet there's a lot of people that
Yeah,
haven't.
go check it out if you have. If
Yeah.
you've seen this whole podcast, we ruined most of the film for you, but go check it
yeah,
out.
next week
Next week is it?
we
Caf-
got Blazing Saddles at the cafe.
Yeah, next week is.
We may have
Blazing
promoted it
Saddles.
last episode, just
Oh,
ignore
the
that.
Blazing Saddles.
No, we got one more after.
So we
that.
got Blazing Saddles next week, and a wrap up comedy month. The week after that is gonna be Funny People. Carlos's pick.
Funny people. But actually, the next two picks were my picks.
It's just the whole scheduling thing that the producer over here mixed up, and
Yeah, no, we had
No,
scheduling
great
picks,
conflicts.
great
We're
picks,
busy
though.
people.
Yeah. We're people's people.
Good problem to have, but stick around for Comedy Month and check out the next episode at the Film Cafe. You come
Oh.
join us this Friday at the Film
18th.
Cafe, August 18th. We're gonna cover Blazing Saddles. We're gonna have a good old time. It's quite possibly at the very least top 5 all-time comedies for me. Blazing Saddles, it really impacted me. I only saw it during the pandemic. I saw it. I was on this Mel Brooks kick over the pandemic, and
That was the first time you saw it?
that was the first time I saw it. It got me, man. I'd seen clips. I'd seen Richard
So this was the
Pryor
first time.
clips.
It still holds?
It still holds,
Absolutely.
man. It still holds.
Where the white
Blazing
women at?
Saddles. Well, the white women at. It did something for me.
That's what I was
And like
scared,
Richard
like,
Pryor, man, like I just always held him in high regard because of stand-up comedy,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And his life is very fucking interesting. You know, this man couldn't read until he was like 30.
For real?
Yeah. Richard Pryor could not read, and Pam Grier, who was in Jackie Brown, the lead in Jackie Brown, and Foxy, and a bunch of other like blaxploitation films, she taught him how to read when they were dating.
Wow.
Oddly
Wow.
enough, yeah, Richard Pryor,
my
man.
God.
He had a very interesting life, man. Very interesting life. And if you see like the comedy store docuseries, his years at the Comedy Store were so pivotal, man. And obviously for stand up and black comedy and stuff, it's insane. It's
Well,
insane
he's
how
like
good.
the Michael Jordan of comedy, no? Like he's set the pedestal. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, like, that's the guy.
What, do you mean for black comedy or like? No, that's not a racist thing. It's a genre to a certain
Yeah.
degree, right? There's Mexican
Yeah, that's
comics
true.
that are.
That's-
Or did he?
I put it for all
I agree.
around.
Like where people want to put like Freddie Prinze into Mexican comedy.
uh-huh.
No, he was just a comic, and
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
Pryor was the same. I think Pryor
I
was the
just
same.
think he's one of the greatest. Man.
Yeah, he is. I
Everybody bit
I
off the
wouldn't
style.
quite call him the Michael Jordan. I'd put somebody like
Better be careful here.
yeah, I'd put somebody like
Don't you dare! I know who you're thinking of right now.
what, Louis?
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't quite say Louis like
he's good though. I saw.
Louis like a Dirk, you know, like later he just kind of
Yeah,
came
yeah.
back and like killed it, but
Yeah, basketball references.
great career. But
Who was your all-time?
oh man, that's an interesting. I don't know.
Do you
that
have an all-time comedian?
All-time comedian? No.
Louis
like,
is my all-time, but I wouldn't say
As
like
far
for
as like comedians that like I hold
you like,
close
yeah.
to the chest, I do Mark Maron and like Dimitri Martin. Like
Dimitri Martin's
Yeah,
great.
that was
Yeah.
a unique style.
Again, quirky comedy that probably wouldn't survive. His
Oh,
show
yeah.
probably wouldn't have survived if it weren't for this era of comedy.
yeah.
I don't know, man. Damn, now you got me thinking. Who's the Michael Jordan of comedy?
How can you not put Richard Pryor, bro? Everybody bit his style. Not
Yeah,
only
yeah,
like in
that's
his
true.
writing, his clothes.
Yeah.
Like, from everything.
Nah,
This
but
is-
you look
this
who
is a
you're
question
pointing
that
out.
must be answered the next episode.
Look
Yeah,
who you
yeah, yeah,
no,
we're-
but look who you're pointing out. You're pointing out Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock, who
Chris Rock,
massacred
the
the
Martin
comedy
Lawrence.
game, right?
Yeah.
I think especially Eddie Murphy with Raw, right?
Yeah.
But he wore the Michael Jackson suits and shit. You know, he was like stylistic and cool, and that was a Richard Pryor thing. You're right, right?
Yeah.
Man, I have to think about this one. I don't know who the Michael Jordan of comedy might be, but yeah,
That's my Michael Jordan comment.
Yeah,
Take
Richard
that.
Pryor. Richard Pryor. Join us at the Film Cafe this Friday, August 18th, 7 o'clock.
Also,
Show up early so you can order some food.
if you didn't know, our videos can now be watched on Spotify.
Yeah, you can watch
Ooh.
our videos on Spotify if you prefer listening to our podcast on Spotify. You can
Hell
also
yeah.
view it there.
Yeah.
They have a video element now, so check that out.
Cool. We're starting to do that.
It's right under Joe Rogan Experience. It's
Yeah,
right
just
there.
right. We're number 2. If you've stuck around this long,
There's a post
subscribe. Yeah, there's a post credit scene. Subscribe to our YouTube page, please. It helps us out a
That
ton.
helps a lot.
Subscribe. Share it with your friends. Let people know. We got a lot of. I got a lot of personal messages recently about the page. It makes me feel really happy.
Nice.
Just friends and family and people sharing it, and like, hey, somebody. I haven't even opened the message yet, but a buddy of mine, he was like, hey, bro. I love the podcast this time. Superbad is like legendary.
I
You
had
guys
that
should
couple too.
should cover Friday. Because Friday also impacted like the comedy movie genre. And I'm
I had
like,
like 2 or 3 were like, can you consult with me?
right.
had a lot of those.
Yeah. So like, just you know, thank you guys for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, comment, share. Please help us out. It helps us out a ton. And let us know what films you want us to cover. Let us know how we can better this podcast. If you have any
Is there
thoughts.
more comedy films that we need to knock out before we just end off comedies?
Exactly.
No, but I do think we should do this every year. Maybe twice, maybe 2 times a year. You know,
I
do a-
absolutely agree.
do comedy thing. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of the Watchtower as we cover
Napoleon
Dynamite.
Bonaparte.
Napoleon Bonaparte, starring Joaquin Phoenix.
By the way, do you know we have listeners in Germany?
What?
Thank you to our listeners in Germany.
Germany,
You know,
dude,
might
all
be,
the way
man.
over
You know,
there?
we have a lot of people out there like Maggie and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got a BMW.
We got some in the UK, Canada, Australia.
Nice.
For anybody
Thank you
checking
guys
that
for
out,
checking
thank
that
you so
out.
much.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let us know, man, if there's a film in your culture that like sticks out as a comedy or
true,
like, you know,
like,
something
I'm
that
really
That's a
lacking in
cult
Canadian
classic over there.
cinema.
in Canadian cinema.
Cinema.
What if we convert it to Canadian dollars?
Yeah.
How are we gonna get 160,000 followers?
No, you don't double it. You don't
Oh,
add it.
jeez.
No, but yeah, go check out Napoleon Dynamite. Come to the Film Cafe on Friday, and we have a very special couple of Tower casts coming up as well. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna have a couple of remote, interesting interviews. So just check it out. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Put the
I
reminder-
can't quite reveal who we're talking to yet, but you guys are gonna love it. So just keep an eye out for the Tower cast as well, and to keep tuning into the Watchtower Film Podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Love
Good
you.
night. Vote for Pedro.
All right, everybody, do a
bruh.
drink. Go.
Vote for Pedro.
You gotta do it, guys. You can do it.
Vote for Pedro.
All right,
Good night, everybody.
do the dance.
Bye-bye.
What's the dance? Which one's the dance? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Don't ever do that again.
Yeah.